If it's down to us two, we both know who'll get the job.
What, you don't mind?
How do you know I meant Julie? Jasmine Hopkins, nurse at Holby City Hospital.
January 12th, BBC One.
Make it a musical Christmas with Daniel O'Donnell and a festive Songs of Praise in 20 minutes. And that's after the early evening news on BBC One with Justin Webb.
The Prime Minister has been speaking for the first time about the resignation of Peter Mandelson. Tony Blair says the former Trade Secretary had to go, but he vowed that the new Labour project would continue. Police investigating the disappearance of the teenager Sally Gregg say they found a body of a young woman. And thousands are without electricity as bad weather hampers attempts to mend damaged lines. Good evening. In his first public comment on the resignation of Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister said the former Trade Secretary had made a mistake in not disclosing the loan he received to buy his house from the former Paymaster General Geoffrey Robinson. In a BBC interview, Tony Blair said Mr Mandelson had paid a heavy penalty for his error, but that his resignation would not affect New Labour's programme.
Before Christmas, Peter Mandelson's loan from the former Paymaster General led to both their resignations. The Prime Minister clearly hoped that the departure of his closest political friend would be the end of the matter.
Peter did something wrong, he made a mistake, he's paid a very heavy penalty for it. Life moves on, the government moves on.
But moving on will not be easy, while the opposition and the press are determined not to. Tories today accused Mr Blair of having tried to save Mr Mandelson. The Prime Minister admits he heard of the loan nearly a week before his Trade Secretary finally resigned. But he says with Britain engaged in airstrikes against Iraq at the time, he could not immediately give it his full attention.
What I was focusing on primarily on the Thursday and the Friday and the Saturday, and to an extent on the Sunday and Monday, was the fact that I just sent British servicemen and women into fight. And I wanted to have full inquiries made so that I knew all the facts.
Depressing holiday reading for Mr Blair this morning, as Labour has been forced to answer further allegations and claims about Minister's conduct. First, that before the election, Gordon Brown's office received funds from Geoffrey Robinson. The Treasury confirms it did, but says the money was fully declared. Second, that other ministers were offered personal loans by Mr Robinson. The Treasury categorically denies this. Third, that Peter Mandelson accepted a free flight from an American millionaire without declaring it. He's confirmed he did, but says he broke no rules because the flight was not connected with his work. All matters that the Tories will pursue when the House of Commons returns from the Christmas break.
This stream of new allegations just reinforces the case for a full, open and independent inquiry into just what has been going on, who accepted favours from Geoffrey Robinson, whether any of those who did tried to repay him by bolstering his position in the government, and the whole culture of cronyism which pervades the very heart of this new Labour government.
As Tony Blair begins a holiday in the Seychelles tonight, the biggest danger for his government is that a flood of allegations, founded or not, may leave voters unable to distinguish between a government that promised to be whiter than white and the Tories brought down by sleaze at the last election. Emma Udwin, BBC News, Westminster.
Police on Tayside, searching for the missing teenager Sally Gregg, say they found the body of a young woman. It was discovered in a field near a farm just outside Perth. Sally Gregg was last seen 4 days ago at a Christmas party at a local hotel.
Police switched the focus of their search to fields outside Perth after yesterday's public appeal had yielded results. Witnesses came forward with a positive sighting of Sally Gregg, the 18-year-old dental assistant missing since Christmas Eve. A helicopter was brought in and her body was found in a field. It seems she'd set out on foot from the Hunting Tower Hotel where she'd been at a party. That was at 11:30 on Wednesday night.
After an hour's search, the crew spotted the body of a young female lying in a field of Newbigging Farm, which is again in the Tibermore area. The body has not yet been identified, but we have scaled down the search.
A post-mortem examination is being carried out, but there was no early evidence of foul play. Sally Gregg's body was found in a field here at Newbigging Farm, more than 2 miles from the works party she'd left on her own. She was spotted walking alone on the road by a family in a car, who asked her if she was all right. It was 3 days before she was seen again. It looks as if she froze to death during the night. Colin Blaine, BBC News, Perth.
4 people have now died and a 5th is missing after storms battered the British Isles over the holiday period. Thousands of homes throughout Britain and Ireland are without electricity, and forecasters say more bad weather will hit western areas tomorrow night.
The clean-up operation is underway in Northern Ireland, but heavy snowfalls have hampered engineers' efforts to restore electricity to 20,000 homes still without power. It'll be Monday before everyone is reconnected. Numerous roads across the province were blocked by fallen trees, and gales gusting at up to 100 miles an hour ripped the roofs off a block of flats in Hollywood in County Down. A policeman was knocked unconscious by flying debris as he evacuated residents who returned today to salvage belongings.
When we lifted the roof, the lid off the roof space, that it was just sky. The roof had been literally lifted off. My aunt's neighbour, her daughter's bedroom also, the chimney stack fell down into her child's bedroom on the top of the child's bed. Luckily, the child was in with the mother at the time.
In Newcastle-on-Tyne, householders were similarly counting the cost as the gales cut a swathe across Britain.
Heck of a noise, an awful noise. And I just came out and I looked at my yard. I says, what on earth's going on here? And that gentleman across the road, he says, you want to hurry up and get out your house?
Worshippers arriving at St Stephen's Church in Glasgow today found the steeple had collapsed through the roof, leaving the building open to the elements. Falling masonry at the Royal Infirmary crushed cars parked below. More than 20,000 homes in Scotland will still be without power tomorrow. The gale took 5 lives. In Brighton, a search has been called off for a man washed out to sea. Search teams found the body of a man swept away by floodwaters in South Devon, and 4 more people, including a 5-year-old boy, were killed in car accidents. Linda Duffin, BBC News.
The smallest of the octuplets, born in Texas a week ago, has died. The baby girl, who weighed just 10 ounces at birth, suffered heart and lung failure. Her parents, Nkem and Iki Chukwu, received Christmas presents for the babies from around the world. Today they thanked everyone for their prayers. The other 7 babies are all in a critical condition. Britain and the United States have told Iraq that their military aircraft will defend themselves against any attack in the air exclusion zones in the north and south of the country. Baghdad has said it'll fire at Western planes patrolling the 2 zones.
The airstrikes may have ended a week ago, but this crisis is by no means over. If any proof were needed, this latest dispute over the so-called no-fly zone demonstrates just how real the potential for renewed conflict is. The Iraqi Vice President Taha Yassin Ramadan has now said that any attempt by Britain and the United States to patrol Iraqi skies will be met with fire. In truth, Britain and America have complete air superiority, and Baghdad does not want to jeopardize what's left of its air defense system. So why is Iraq confronting Britain and American forces over this issue? Part of the reason is to be found in neighboring Jordan, where MPs from all over the Arab world have gathered to discuss the issue of Iraq. Baghdad is doing everything to exploit the popular resentment across the Arab world, which the bombings have engendered, and their goal is an end to sanctions. The Iraqi authorities believe that the diplomatic initiative to push for the lifting of sanctions is now on their side. As part of this, they want to portray Iraq as the victim of what they describe as British and American aggression. and they're making it clear that in their minds this aggression has not ended and that they will, if needs be, respond. Raghi Omar, BBC News, Baghdad.
Police have again asked for help in catching a gang of thieves following the death on Christmas Day of a blind and deaf pensioner. Eileen Harvey, who was 93, died a week after she was robbed of her savings in her own home.
Just days before Christmas, conmen took their way into Eileen Harvey's home in Portsmouth. She was robbed of nearly £400 she had saved for Christmas presents. It follows a bogus call earlier in the year when she also had money stolen. Although there's no direct link between the robberies and her death, police say the emotional trauma may have been a factor.
She's a very frail old lady. She lived alone. She was 93 years old and she did suffer impairment of hearing and sight. But her mind was very alert, and she has found the crimes that have been committed against her very, very traumatic.
Police believe Eileen was tricked by the same bogus caller who robbed her in May. This time the man was accompanied by a boy, which convinced her that he was genuine. Peter Diapra, BBC News.
The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh will open the Millennium Dome at a champagne party on New Year's Eve in 1999. Official confirmation from Buckingham Palace came after suggestions that the Queen and Prince Philip would prefer to see in the year 2000 in Scotland.
Confirmation that the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh will attend the opening of the Dome will be a boost to the Millennium Project team, which says the Dome's exterior is now finished and the project is 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Buckingham Palace had always denied suggestions that the Queen and Prince Philip might snub the government by seeing in the new year in Scotland. A spokesman said their exact role in the ceremony had still to be finalised. It's known that members of the royal family plan to join in Millennium celebrations throughout the UK. The Church of England's concerns over the religious content of the Spirit Zone, the most controversial of the Dome's exhibits, seem to have been allayed. Organisers have now made clear that Christianity will be the main focus of the zone.
I'm particularly excited that the first thing you will meet when you come into the zone is an exposition of Jesus Christ and the significance of Jesus Christ, moving into a significance of Christ for the history of our country. I think that's very good.
There have been concerns over funding, but the project organisers are confident a £4 million sponsorship deal will be reached shortly. Work on the exhibitions inside the Dome starts at the turn of the year. George Eakin, BBC News.
England's cricket captain Alex Stewart made a stirring century, but his team collapsed around him on the second day of the fourth test against Australia in Melbourne. He scored 107 in a total of 270 all out. Mark Ramprakash made 63. In reply, Australia are 59 for 2.
Having lost the whole of the previous day to rain, it looked as though Australia's bowlers were keen to make up on lost time. Mike Atherton lasting just 5 balls. Worse was to follow as Mark Butcher was soon joining him back in the pavilion, and England were in deep trouble at 4 for 2. Captain Alex Stewart made a jittery start to his innings, but once he settled in, he took the game to the Australians. Leading by example, he went on to make a well-deserved century, one that was particularly overdue against Australia, being his first in 45 attempts. Only Mark Ramprakash, who's been one of England's most consistent batsmen on the tour, supported his captain, making a stubborn half-century. Stewart's downfall, having made 107, also marked the beginning of England's downfall, as yet again the lower order failed to contribute. The rest of the wickets just tumbled away, as England fell from a promising score of 200 for 3 to 270 all out. Alan Mullally, the last man out, again for naught, collecting his 5th duck of the series. There was, though, some cause for optimism, Darren Gough taking 2 wickets before the close to give England yet another ray of hope. Bernie Rose, BBC News.
And that is it for now. The next news, the late news, is at 10:20. For now, good evening.
Hello again. If you've just been watching the news, the latest is we're actually expecting some more windy, wintry weather overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. Now, the worst affected areas as far as gales are concerned are likely to be Northern Ireland and the Irish Sea. And we're also expecting some more snow in Northern Ireland along with central and southern parts of Scotland. It's all down to this little area of low pressure. It'll be crossing the North Channel overnight, the strongest winds to the south of the low centre, and elsewhere there'll be some rain, sleet and snow showers overnight, and with temperatures as low as these, there could be some slippery surfaces just about anywhere. So we start off with some quite nasty conditions across the borders and up into the central lowlands. That snow will fizzle as it moves northwards during the day. In the north of Scotland, some wintry showers by the afternoon, still some wintry showers across Northern Ireland, but further south in England and Wales, the showers few and far between, with a bit of sunshine breaking through for the afternoon. And then the low temperatures could get up to 9 Celsius. It is going to feel quite chilly in the breeze. Bye-bye.
This is BBC One for the Midlands.
Good evening. A known drugs dealer has been murdered in his home in Birmingham. The 57-year-old man was found stabbed in his flat in the Northfield area of the city last night.
Christos Joannidis used his ground floor flat to sell cannabis. It was a fact well known to many in the local community. And according to one of his friends and neighbours, this may have been the reason for the murder.
We were very close friends. So we were more, than anybody else on the green. I mean, there's one or two on the green, want to see the back of the drugs. Well, I've got it, but not at this price. I mean, he was very well known. Very liked as well.
Mr. Joannidis had lived alone on Trescott Road. He received a number of visitors during night and day. The police are now pursuing the possibility that one of these calls might have led to his death.
We do know that round about 6:15 there was somebody seen to run away from the general area of the house. That person is described as male, wearing dark clothing of slight build. And that's the only description I have. So what I would ask the people in the area, if they saw anybody running away or acting suspiciously, or know of Mr. Joannidis' habits and his associates, to come forward and help us to catch his killer.
An incident room has been set up at Bourneville Lane police station. Any information given will be treated in confidence. Wasim Zakir, Midlands Today, Birmingham.
A man has died after being stabbed in the chest in Stoke-on-Trent. Ambulance crews and police were called out yesterday evening to a house in Norton Green. Paramedics couldn't save the 52-year-old. A woman is being interviewed by police. Frontline health services in the Midlands have been overwhelmed by a flu epidemic spreading across the region. A doctor's answering service is on red alert, and Staffordshire Ambulance Service has recalled some staff from their holiday.
No sooner had this ambulance crew delivered a patient to hospital than it was off on another call. The 21 crews normally scheduled on in Staffordshire on Boxing Day have been inundated with emergencies. An urgent appeal to off-duty staff brought 11 more crews into work.
We've never experienced this increase in demand. It's 40–50% above normal what we expect at Christmas. It's unprecedented at the moment.
It was a similar story at the West Midlands GP's deputising service in Birmingham. Christmas Day calls were up around 40%. On Boxing Day last year they had 900 calls, this year 1,600, around 80% more.
The reason for that has been the appearance of a flu-like illness, a particular virus that seems to have hit the Midlands, started at the beginning of last week, and it now seems to be increasing in intensity.
Doctors and ambulance staff hope that trying traditional remedies for coughs and colds could help ease some pressure on emergency calls. Colin Pemberton, Midlands Today.
Flood warnings remain in place tonight across the Midlands. People living near the rivers Lem, Avon, Tame and Wye may face problems with rising water levels. But tonight, anyway, the rather cloudy and showery weather will clear overnight and it's going to become mainly dry. And with temperatures dropping to only 2 degrees, there'll be a ground frost. Tomorrow will be a much brighter day with sunny spells and a few showers which will turn wintry over the hills. Top temperature 6 degrees in a blustery wind. Well, that's it from all of us here at Midlands Today. I'll wish you a very good night.
Honest to God, I never thought to see you in such a state. You must miss him dreadfully.
Get him out! Get him out!
You do not leave your room until Her Majesty requested.
The Queen will ride out if and when she chooses.
I believe Her Majesty's wrong. If ever a poor soul needed some fresh air, it's her.
Judi Dench
For friendship.
and Billy Connolly. Star in the BBC Oscar-nominated film Mrs. Brown. Tonight at 8:40 on BBC One.
BBC One heads to Warwickshire for the next generation of the Antiques Roadshow in 35 minutes after Songs of Praise for Christmas with Daniel O'Donnell.
Hello there and happy Christmas everyone. I'm delighted to be able to share this very special time of year with you, and I hope that you're going to enjoy the next half hour. We've got some great Christmas music and some special gospel songs lined up, so come on in and enjoy.